Hi everyone. Welcome to SalesIntel show. Our mission is to help the community learn from each other ways to build the strongest revenue pipeline, because the pipeline is the heartbeat of a company. And we at SalesIntel believe that generating pipeline is a team sport. It's not just the BDR team's responsibility or the marketing responsibility. It truly takes a village. It takes a village to build the pipeline that converts to revenue and the growth. Today, I'm excited to have Leo from Clari on this podcast. Leo, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Manoj. I really appreciate you just taking the time and getting to chat.
Thank you. Our pleasure. Leo, let's spend a few minutes. Tell the community about yourself and how, in your role, you're contributing to the pipeline.
Yeah, happy to. If I had to sum up my role, I think it would be in three words: revenue development representative. We're very similar to SDRs in that I have a portion of my KPIs that are specifically around the top of funnel, whether or not I'm actually creating and converting. But there's also aspects of my job now that also include closing anything that's under a certain ACV or annual contract value. And if you look at revenue as kind of a controlled process, I firmly believe that revenue is a process that we can control. The beat at which you kind of walk prospects through that sales funnel or run revenue becomes a cadence. And that cadence is create, convert, close, and expand. And every firm that uses weighted pipeline is going to be going through that beat. So for me, my job is to focus on how do I create revenue for Clari.
Awesome. Awesome. So last year was tough for all of us, right? Lots of companies just didn't create enough pipeline. Lots of companies just didn't hit their revenue numbers. And we learned from some of those mistakes, right? Some of the challenges were just macroeconomic headwinds we couldn't control much of, but there were areas of improvements on many initiatives that we thought would pan out but didn't pan out. If you were to look back to last year, is there one thing that you can pinpoint to say, you know what, I wish I had done differently, and what's the learning from that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I have two, but first I just want to acknowledge what you said. Like 2023 was a difficult year for a lot of firms. Between uncertain headwinds, IPO windows closing, just things that no individual could control. And just to be clear, like I want to speak very broadly, just because I get the fortune of being obsessed with businesses and how they work for a living. So to answer your question directly, I want to close the aperture a little bit. And for me, the headline in 2023 was that lazy prospecting those days, long gone.
Long gone, yeah.
That was actually feedback that Amy Katz over at SalesIntel gave me when I actually booked time with y'all, and you were looking at Copilot, Clari Copilot. It was called Wingman at the time, but now it's Clari Copilot. And for me, there's really just two big pivots. One was making sure that AI and automation were my best friend. This is one of my biggest learnings in 2023. And two was just to really govern my process.
Nice, nice. So now we are in 2024, right? New budgets, new year. I can't believe February is coming to end here. But are there initiatives for 2024 or an experiment or two that you are most excited about that you believe is going to contribute to the pipeline?
Yeah, I want to actually talk about those kind of two areas, because today for me, we just had our SKO. We were talking a lot about what we did in 2023, what we've learned, and what we're going to be doing in 2024. So for me, 2024 is really going to be thinking about, making AI and automation my best friend and governing my process. So for the first, we're in a pivotal change with large language models and AI. You have ChatGPT, Gemini, and we're no strangers to AI over at Clari. We have been leveraging AI and ML as a part of our forecasting process for about 12 years, which is why a lot of companies approach us and why we can boast 98% in 2 weeks. Now, when it comes to high technology like AI, I like to call myself a jack of all trades, but master of none. And I want to take a moment and just talk about that very specifically. With AI, it's such a polarizing topic in sales. Like, so many people are just like, oh, I have this fantastic firm. I'm gonna help you write copy. There's other firms out there helping you with research, cold calling. I'm sure you've seen it too, the AI that was cold calling people on as an SDR, and that demo, which I thought was really, really interesting. I believe that the best SDRs, the best people that create pipeline, are going to be the ones that are able to welcome AI, but with a grain of salt.
Mhm.
What I mean by that is, like, take for example SalesIntel, right? I would fully support AI looking at my emails that I've sent out in the past and taking an average guess on, hey, this is probably the email structure of the person you're reaching out. I don't have their email, but I'm confident based on this data that I've looked through.
Mhm.
That's more than welcome. But what I don't support is leveraging a sales engagement tool like Groove to then mass blast like 1,000 canned pitches and
Yeah.
emails, and using it, saying, "Oh, I used AI. I wrote it through AI," but it's sending 1,000 canned pitches to the
Yeah.
same account. It's not going to work. The spray and pray tactics. So I think that there's a fence there that you can sit on. If you take First Touch as an example, there's a startup called First Touch, and they're leveraging AI to be able to understand and take in data on a prospect rather than on the accounts or something, writing copy or something like that. So it takes in data on the prospect, then it trains that model to understand whether or not they'll actually reach out to this type of copy that it's about to generate, and then can generate many different variations of copy against the prospect, not the like individual needs or business level strategy. It's against the prospect. And so I think that's terribly interesting, and that's using AI, but just with a little bit of grain of salt.
And you're
And
putting your personal touch after that. Once the AI generates that copy that is specific to a prospect or the individual, you're then touching it.
yeah, so I'll go in and make edits as I see fit. It's really helping me just understand, look, who is this person? What are they interested in? Doing a deep dive on them on the internet,
Yeah.
and doing that time and time again. We only have so much time in the day, and so that's a use case I think that is terribly interesting when it comes to making sure that you're limiting the way AI is actually doing your job, but also getting better and stronger and faster with it, rather than just, oh, go replace me, send 1,000 emails. It's like, I can understand where the copy would work. I understand the research that it did. I can turn it around. I know they're very early stage, but I just wanted to give them a shout out
No,
because I
that's
think
great. That's great. It's
they're
always good
doing
to
great.
give shout outs to up and coming companies that are doing cool stuff.
And the second thing I wanted to talk about, governing my process. When it comes to Clari, a lot of what the way we sell at Clari is solution based. And at the start of my revenue cadence, so my account directors can really fit Clari as a solution into the accounts that I'm prospecting, I need to build a hypothesis. So for Clari's sake, let's say, and Clari, for those of you that don't know, is a revenue platform, and it helps with end to end from BDR all the way up to the board, different use cases. More specifically, I want to talk about forecasting in Clari, and
Mhm.
specifically, the company was to go public. And when a company's about to go public and I find that out, I know they can't lie to the street. They have to build that foundational layer of trust around their forecasting process to be able to, comply with Sainsbury Cox. They need to know, and their CROs, their execs need to know if they're going to meet, beat, or miss on revenue goals. And so from there, I'm going to go and find nuances in their process. Why can their CROs not understand what's going on? What is blindsiding them? Are they able to go into their process? Oftentimes, it's the three-headed hydra: spreadsheets, BI, and Salesforce. Are they going in and looking at their different, what's going on in CRM? Like what is this actually that is blindsiding them? And from there, I'm going to build my hypothesis and my null hypothesis, and that is a relevant hypothesis that I can reach out on.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You're using data for your advantage to form the right discussions point, right? So when you approach the
Exactly.
prospect, you have the data. That is awesome. That's awesome. So Leo, I want to switch the gears here. I want to share my screen. So on the screen, you have 100 pennies on the left hand side. Each coin is worth 10 pennies, and your task is to place the bets, right? Make these investments in the right channels that will bring the most optimal pipeline for Clari. Okay, because as we all know, pipeline comes from many different channels: sales, marketing, events, and community. They all have to come together to generate a pipeline that converts into revenue. So how would you place your bets in 2024, and where will you invest your pennies?
Got you. I see the increment in increments of 10, and I'll tell you right now, I'm probably not going into product-led growth because that would be the death of my job. But I guess in increments of 10, I'd probably put 20 on founder.
20 on founder, yeah. All right. Why is it like? What's your thought when you think about founder-led growth or founder-led pipeline generation?
Yeah, I mean, I clearly, I like to think that we have the prime minister of revenue at the helm, Mr. Andy Byrne, and seeing how he is able to not only talk about the pains that he's gone through, and he's worked from the SDR all the way up in the org, so he understands the use cases of each. The way he's able to just unlock doors for Clari that no one else can. You know, the founders truly are the most passionate people about their business, but also have that network and have that understanding of what it is that they built to disrupt, and then in turn, what it is that their business is doing today to help continue that disruption.
That's incredible. That is incredible. That's great. Let's just move on to the next one. How would you invest the other 80 pennies that you have?
I would probably do 20 cents on partnership led
20.
and 20 cents on community as well. You're going to notice there's a theme here. I'm a very risk averse. I run a diversified portfolio.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. 20 on partnership, 20 on community. So you're
And I would,
40, you're 40
oh,
cents.
I have 40 cents left. I would probably do 20 on paid and 20 on organic.
All right. So in this case, your paid is marketing, right? So 20 on the marketing, right? And then where you place organic? Is it a brand? Is it customer?
I
How
would
do you
probably put
make
20 on
organic
sales-led growth.
both on sales side?
On sales-led, yeah. Because the way I see it is, sales is a function of marketing, and we know that, but marketing has the ability to measure with MROI, and they can go in and actually attribute a cash dollar amount to what their work is. Whereas with sales, I mean, you have to equip your salespeople. They have to be able to work with marketing hand in hand, collaborate on revenue, understand which of the actual accounts that we're putting that MROI into, and what I can do to kind of nudge people over the fence, or where people stand. Are they on the fence? Are they off the fence? So you kind of need both hand in hand.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Makes sense. So I love your well-distributed, well-diversified chart here. So now let's take a look at how community has been spending their 100 pennies, right? This is a graph that just shows you how community has been investing their 100 pennies to generate the most pipeline. And now I'm going to overlay your data points here, right? Where you have blue, which is community, and orange is yours. Does this surprise you in any way?
Interesting. I'm surprised that there's not as much founder led. People don't trust their leaders. I mean, that to me is very, very surprising.
Not all founders get out there, right? Not all founders get out there to
It's true.
to the community and evangelize their brand.
That's true. That's true. I do now stand corrected in the fact that there are oftentimes founders who might have stepped down, or companies that are much farther in growth. So yeah, but no, thank you for sharing this. It's terribly interesting. I'm probably gonna ping you with questions afterwards and dive deeper on this.
Yeah, I would love to. So seems like your two big bets are partnership and community, right? I'm hearing a lot more about those on my show. And I've been talking to a lot of practitioners, a lot of leaders, a lot of thought leaders, and I'm hearing the shift from purely sales and marketing to the community and partnership. So I think this is going to be probably the year where we make a pivot to community and partnership led growth across the board.
I think so, 100%. And you know, I have my sales mantra written out and on a little post-it note. I keep it next to my computer, and it just says, worry enough about their problems so they become your problems.
Mhm.
And really, the way I want to help my customers and my prospects grow and understand why they should invest in Clari and why they should continue to capitalize, that expand piece, why they should continue to capitalize on their investment in Clari, is really because I want to be the person that when I leave the room, they're still like, that guy, he worries about our problems.
Our problems,
He's
yeah.
really worried. And I think that when it comes to community and partners, like they're the ones who can help that cement that feeling and that process of, when we partner with Clari, it's not just because they're going to sell us a tool.
Yeah.
Because we're a revenue platform and we're actually partnering with their businesses. So a lot of the reasons why I joined Clari, we're partnering with them so they can understand where their gaps are, where they're doing very well. And this all can be done through Clari, but it's also the way we guide the process, the way we're having conversations with them, the parts of the process which we put under a microscope when we zoom in and close that aperture, double clicking into specific areas that could be beneficial under both Clari or just in general could be done a lot better. That's the solution sales piece. So again, like having customers evangelize you. I mean, yes, it's part of the four, main pillars of marketing. Guerrilla marketing will always exist and always need that kind of steady hand on you. I think I heard a statistic when I was in business school that over 50% of businesses are getting ROI through guerrilla marketing.
Yep.
But I think all that to be said, when it comes to the partners and things like that, people can speak for you when you're not in the room and are not necessarily internal to the company. There's a very powerful thing to leverage, and I think we're just now seeing that it's democratized and more people are able to access it and leverage it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to having more discussions with you in the coming months and see how your bets are playing out. But thank you so much, Leo. I really appreciate you joining the show. I'm sure our community is going to find your thoughts and the nuggets that you shared with them really useful. So thanks, Leo.
Thank you. Take care.